happy Monday to you.
Happy Monday.
We're here and looking forward to a new topic because we're in the month of February. Holy cow, January flew by. And so now, yeah, it really did. I mean, on so many levels. And now we're going to be talking about business community for the month of February, which is a topic I personally really like because I'm such a people person. And I know you're pretty much a people person too. So, and my phone is telling me that we just went live, just for the record.
Yeah, mine just buzzed twice, and I was like, oh, someone trying to text me. Um, Along with a junk email, private jet quote. Sorry.
Well, maybe that means that someday your business community is going to be private jet owners.
Hey, you know what? Maybe.
Never say never, right?
That is very true. But this is a great topic for this month for so many reasons that I'm
Not full
sure
of prejudice. Yeah.
enlighten us on your wisdom as to why these business communities getting what you need from a business community and why that's so important as a business owner.
Absolutely, because it is important as a business owner to figure out what kind of a business community you need to plug into. And in order to do that, you have to know what you're looking for. You cannot find something if you do not know what you're looking for. So, in order to get started on that, I am going to loop back to who's with us today and talk about who is in our Inflection Point Moments community. If anybody is here with us, please let us know by typing into the chat, just telling us, hey, I'm here, looking forward to the topic, or really wondering why you're talking about this, or whatever it is you'd like to tell us about it. We would just love to know that you're here with us, and we will then watch the chat and respond to the things that you are letting us know about so that we're making sure that, oh, Gary Monty is with us. Hey, Gary, so glad to have you with us. But Jeff and I met at an event that Gary was at too. So it's really cool to have you with us today, Gary. And so anyway, Gary, feel free to chime in on anything as we're talking here so that we can make sure that no, we have not talked in ages, but we want to make sure that what we're talking about is germane to our audience because, Jeff and I can talk about a whole lot of things, but that
I
doesn't. All right. So there are a ton of business communities out there. And the fact that you need to know what you want from your business community is key to finding the right one for you because they are not one size fits all. But once you've identified your needs, you can make sure that they're met. And that's critical because so many things that are out there may or may not meet your needs where you are in your business today. And you can either not invest money that you should be investing because you're not in the right kind of community, or invest a lot more money than you should be investing today because you're really in a stretch community for you that you're not ready for yet. So we got to be careful about making the right decision for ourselves. So there's a lot of words that people use for business communities. There's community, that's a radical one. There's a mastermind. There's a peer advisory group. There's a round table. Those are three that came to me right off the top of my head. Are there any other ones than that you can think of, Jeff? Or I'm going to tap Gary on this because he's been around for a while. And I know that he might have been exposed to some business communities also. Gary's also saying that his issue is transactional versus relational. Oh, Gary, amen. You are preaching I'm right there with you. Gary says he needs relationships. He says he's going to promote his consulting business and courses, but because of the nature of my work, relationships are essential. And that is so true because those of us who are entrepreneurs and small business owners, and especially if you're a solopreneur, you're kind of out there working on your own. And we do need relationships of other people to bounce things off of and connect with, so that we have those business friendships of people that are in the same space we are. We've kind of talked about that last month in what we discussed around working in your energizers and making sure there were other people around you. Okay, Jeff, I have just talked a ton. I'm going to breathe now for a minute and let you have a little space.
Well, I was going to say, besides the round table, actually, it reminded me, do you know who created the round table?
The Knights of the Round Table? King Arthur? I don't know.
Circumference. Wah, wah, wah. I use that one on my kids, and I thought, oh, this is the perfect opportunity when you mentioned round table. But I think that those are some of the words. Yeah, Rhonda's speechless. You don't see that too often. But that is key, all these different things. And I agree with Gary that, the relationships, so many of us, and in most businesses, it's a relationship business, regardless of what it is that you do, whether it's consulting or whatnot, that you might do that, those relationships are really key. And I think in those peer advisory groups, it's getting those relationships developed and making it a trusting environment where people can be open and vulnerable about challenges that they're facing in their business, and getting from my perspective, the wisdom and growth from others in the group on where they might have faced that challenge at some point in their business journey as well, I think is really, really, an important aspect of any type of community. Because to me, when you think about community, it's people coming together for that common good, and being able to have that trust where you can get something other than surface level items out of the community, if that makes sense.
It absolutely, it absolutely does. And actually, we're going to talk more about that next week around building those relationships. But it's so true that those are critical, and that because so using the concept of a mastermind, excuse me, which is that came from Napoleon Hill, I don't know, in the early 1900s. Think and Grow Rich was the name of the book on that. But the idea with that is there is an added mind in the group. Sometimes you hear it called the hive mind, because it's all those people's knowledge put together is an additional source of knowledge that kind of becomes exponential in the situation. Excuse me. Gary's talking about business friendships are essential for us because we need to bring in experts in different areas. And that's one of the things that we are creating in the Inflection Point Hub, is our directory of curated resources that the subject matter experts that we are going to bring into the group and also have as a resource for our group. And it's so important that we have the trust of the other people in the group. And as Gary is talking about, because of the fact that there are vulnerabilities in what we do, and again, we'll talk some about that next week, in what that means to be inside a group like this. But as business owners, we do have vulnerabilities. We may look like Teflon on the outside from the standpoint of, wow, we're creating this big organization and we're growing and we're creating value in the world. But that doesn't mean we never wonder about things. And that's one of the values that having that business community can bring you, is that circle of people around you where you can connect with them and actually have that space of being able to be vulnerable. You can't necessarily say that to your staff. That's probably inappropriate. You can't say, oh my God, the sky is falling. You'd like to keep your staff, and saying the sky is falling is not a good way to do that. you need to engender confidence and that we know where we're going, or we know at least a direction, and I'm bringing you into the process so we can figure out how your expertise can make our um, process of where we're going more effective. But there is just a place and a space where you need to be able to connect to another business owner and talk to them about it.
No, I agree. One of the things when I think about the needs from the business community, because like you said, there are so many of them out there. They're called so many different things. I think to me, one of the most beneficial things is kind of spending time before you even start looking to identify what it is that you need. Because I think if you've got those written down on what your needs are, it becomes a little bit easier to pass on the ones that aren't going to fulfill what you're looking for versus sometimes you can get caught with the shiny diamond, right? This one sounds really good, so I'm going to jump on and get into it. And then I get into it and realize this isn't really what I needed, although it sounded great. What I really need is something completely different based on where I'm at and where my business is at right now.
Exactly.
And I think, I've seen that in business, not just with business communities, but when people make software buying decisions.
Oh, I remember this story.
It's always great when you get the great sales pitch about the system and process. This thing can do everything. Rhonda, it can take care of this, it can take care of that. And then without really
You can change the tires on your car.
Yes. And without really understanding your requirements of what you need this thing to do, it's easy to get kind of drawn in from a sales pitch perspective or a sales landing page, that this is perfect if you haven't spent the time to really develop what it is that you need or what problem are you trying to solve.
Yeah, that is so true. What do you need and what problem are you trying to solve? And Gary's got a comment here about there is a danger with a mastermind group can possibly turn into an echo chamber. That is a really good point. And I'm going to be really honest with you at this point in time and say sometimes that has to do with the people who are facilitating the group. If it's they talk about the example of if your only tool is a hammer, then everything is, every problem is going to require being a nail you can't use a hammer as a screwdriver. It just does not work well. Or a wrench. That doesn't work well either. You might be able to use a wrench as a hammer on occasion. I know to do that. But but you have to make sure that you have the right tools. And if you have a facilitator who's a one-trick pony, then their answer is always going to be that solution that they have, which is kind of like that software solution you were talking about. That's one of the benefits of you and me being the facilitators of the Inflection Point Hub. Number one, we have very different skill sets. Yeah. We have very different skill sets, and we also can bounce off of each other. This is not in your wheelhouse. We need to get the right person in here to address that particular issue, or go see that person. Yes, that's it's so true that people may be thinking they're listing their needs, but they're listing symptoms, not the root causes of what is going on. So identifying your needs is part one. Part two is what's driving you to not be able to identify that the root cause of why your needs not being met. Yeah. So to that effect, there are a couple of questions I have to put on the table from this standpoint. Number one, how long have you been in business? Because the community you need to be part of is going to be driven by how long you've been in business. And I'm going to put one caveat on that. So if you're somebody who's been in business for a good long while, and you have an established business, you know what your product line is, you know what your solution is you deliver for your customer, and then you decide that you're going to create a new product to put into the marketplace that's not just a sideline of what you've already done. So I was talking to somebody recently who is they have a commercial cleaning business, and they were doing commercial cleaning, and then they started doing cleaning for business commercial building. So really, that was just a standalone, an alongside product. There is a name for this, and I cannot for the life of me think what it is. So, Jeff, if you got that name, please jump in. Um, I mean,
It's just my mind was going in overdrive trying to think of the word, and I can't think of it either.
thank God. So neither one of us can think of the word. Okay, fine, whatever. But they are very synergistic businesses. They one really feeds off of the other. But then this person was also now starting a construction company, and they're doing residential construction. Well, that's a totally different animal than what they've been doing before. So, a sideline business. Thank you, Gary. I knew somebody would have it. It's just not me this time. Thank you very much. So now this person's starting a completely new business. They got to really reset who it is they're talking to. Where are they going to find their customers? Because it's a totally different kind of business. In that situation, you're almost starting over again. Yes, you've got money coming in from the businesses you already have, but this new business, you're starting from scratch on that new business. So, how do you start this new business? In that situation, you might want to go back to a business type, community that is for either startup or scaling businesses. Because really, you're not anywhere past startup on this new business. And you got a lot to learn about this particular business. Who are their customers? Where do those people gather? How do you find the people that you need to talk to get that business? So that's one question. Where are you? How long have you been in business? Gary says, the Midas touch. How can I possibly fail? If only it was that simple, Gary. And there are things that business owner, because they have created a successful business, they bring some things to the table. Number one, they have created a business. So they may be a serial entrepreneur that's just getting into the serial side of being a serial entrepreneur. But the flip side of that is they may get a little overconfident and have that attitude of how could I possibly fail? Yeah, Gary, you've run into a lot of things in your process in being a business consultant over time. That is for sure. So, some questions to help you think about what you need in a business community. As a business owner, how might these fit into what you're looking for? Are you looking for fellow travelers? Do you need to find other business owners to be in community with? I know personally, I need that. I definitely need to have that. Are you looking for accountability? Do you need somebody to be basically saying, did you accomplish this? Did you get this done? Are you looking for access to resources and experts? And specifically, resources and experts for your stage of business. Because when you're a startup, you need one set of resources. When you're in the scaling stage, you need another set of resources. When you're at maintaining, you need a different set of resources. And if your business is a small but mighty business, and in the whole grand scheme of things, that's what you want it to be for its entire life cycle, which, by the way, is legitimate. I mean, go be $1 million, $50 million business if that's what you want to build. That's fabulous. But not every business needs to be that. That's just not necessary for some people. Some people want that to be their business size, and that's fabulous. But know what you need at the stage of business that you're at. Most of us will never get to the place where we need an enterprise size business consultant. So we don't need the McKinsey folks when we're a small business. And I know Gary has had a lot of experience with this. Actually, Gary, the conversations I had with you a long time ago have really burned that into my brain. Do you need mentorship? Are you looking for somebody who's ahead of you on the path to speak into you? And here's one of the beauties of a peer advisory group. Whatever stage you're at, if you have people who are in that same stage with you, there's going to be parts of the process. Sorry, Gary's putting comments in the chat that are making me laugh. Yes, some of the big four are not where most of our clients are going to need to be. Actually, they're never. Our clients will most likely never be at that stage. That doesn't mean there's not going to be a company that grows to that level, but the people we're talking to as small but mighty business owners, that's not the stage that they're at. McKinsey is not their people. No. Sorry, I was talking about mentorship. In the Inflection Point Hub, the beauty of a community like ours is people in our community, some are going to be ahead in the marketing space. Some are going to be ahead in the software space. Some are going to be ahead because they've had to do some work in legal. Some are going to be ahead because they worked in customer service or they have had customer service challenges that they've learned from in their business already. That's where the peer advisory group brings beauty. And especially if you have facilitators that are experienced in bringing those things to the table and pulling them out, which, just for the record, we are, not that I'm bragging or anything, but that can make a huge difference. And then the last thing, as far as what do you need as a business owner, is looking at whether you need a paid or unpaid business community. There are unpaid business communities out there. Some people create their own. Some people connect to an unpaid business community and they find value in it. I believe that in most situations, you get what you pay for.
I was just going to say that.
I stole it from you.
I know, for things that I've even experienced, in the space, you tend to get what you pay for. Free does not always mean better.
That's true. And there may be some situations where people just plain don't have the money to invest in it in the beginning. But when you get to the point where you're past startup and you're really starting to know that you need to get focused, know where you're going, get really intentional and hone in on some things, it's time to look at investing some of your hard-earned cash in the community.
And I think the other thing is it's not just in the community, it's really an investment in yourself. So you think about this in terms of, for those of us that own businesses that have ever worked anywhere else, oftentimes organizations invest in their employees, right, in some form or fashion of some kind. I think that's something that oftentimes gets forgotten when you're running your own business and you are both the CEO, owner, and you're an employee, right?
Yeah,
because
true.
the way that you lead and show up with your team and your customers, just because you are now the owner does not mean that you just stop learning or that you don't have opportunities to learn and get better. And, I think that's one of the things that I've always thought about is with these paid types of groups, you can look at it one of two ways, like a lot of things. It's either an expense on, my books every month or every quarter or whatever, or this is the investment that I'm making in myself to become a better business leader, a better business owner, a better boss, a better insert thing here, whatever that is for you, on the needs that you've already identified. for where you want to take your business and where you want to grow.
And that is such a critical factor because that need is part of why we have built the Inflection Point Hub in the way that we have. Remember the conversation we were having with our friend Andrew when we went to lunch with him and we were describing, he said, okay, so who do you work with? And our answer was businesses beyond startup. They're in the scaling phase. And there's this big circle of those business owners. And within that big circle of those business owners, there is a smaller circle of the people who recognize exactly what you just said. They're not just growing this business and scaling this business in a way that takes all the stuff that they've learned up to this point. Rather, they recognize that in order to take their business where they want to go, to reach the vision and the goals and become the business they want to have, they have to grow as the business owner also. They have to invest in their people. They have to invest in themselves to become who they need to be that business owner. That is critical, and none of us have every skill and every experience and piece of wisdom we need to take our business to the next level by ourselves. Not that I'm getting on a soapbox about that. I don't have very strong opinions about that.
No, not at all.
Yeah, right. Whatever.
Strong opinions or strong passion for that topic.
Yes, I do. This is very true. So as I was reflecting on this, as I was getting ready for us to come on this call, because I like to be a little more prepared as opposed to fly by the seat of my pants. I was thinking about some of the communities that I've been in, paid and unpaid. And what's really funny is one of them is a paid community because it's a business organization that I pay dues to. But within that business organization, they do have roundtables. And I've seen some of them be incredibly successful and some of them absolutely blow up. So you don't pay an additional fee to be part of one of these, but it's unpaid from the standpoint of you have the option of becoming a member of one of them. There was one called Marketing Momentum, which was a group focused on marketing for new coaches. It was very exacting in who they were working for, or who they were working with. That was great for the period of time I was in it. There was one called Speaking Your Brand, which was about developing your speaking message and your speaking style. It was a whole lot of process around where you found speaking engagements. And then the pandemic hit, but that's a whole nother conversation. There was a group called Growth Chicks, which was for women business owners in what they call the validate stage, where you have already started your business, but is this really going to work stage? So, there are a lot of different kinds of groups. And then, of course, there's entrepreneur organization, there's Vistage, there's Convene. There are so many organizations out there. The majority of the ones that I just named. And then there's the Chamber. The Chamber has different groups within it. So you got to know what you're looking for, because none of us have an unlimited amount of time to invest in these groups, because there's not only just investing your money, but there's also time involved in being part of one of these groups. So what are you going to get back for it? So when you know what you need, what are you looking for? What do you need? Then you can make the best decision about where's the business community you need to invest your time and hard-won income in.
That is perfectly said and summed up. And I think it is about that investment in time and the monetary, because you can join a number of groups and pay whatever the dues are and however frequent they are. But if you don't show up and you don't participate, what's the point? And what's the point in even joining? And I'm such a big fan of a lot of these. You get out of them what you put into them.
So
So
true.
you can't just sign up and pay. It's kind of like the first of the year, January, you can't sign up to go to a gym and in March wonder why you're not losing any weight because you're paying these membership fees, but you're not going and doing anything, right?
Oh, can we not talk about that part?
Yeah.
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 Uh-huh.
And
Hmm.
things that you have to do and exert in order to get benefit from.
Very true. Absolutely. So, speaking of things you have to do and exert, I would like to invite everybody who listens to the Inflection Point moment this week to consider whether the Inflection Point Hub is a good fit for their needs. Because we are creating a business community of small but mighty business owners who know that they need to grow in order to grow their business. And until February 15th, there are early bird bonuses. More people, oh man, you're so right, Gary. Sorry, I'll address that in a minute. People can get additional time with you and me, one-on-one time with you and me, if they sign up before February 15th for the Inflection Point Hub, which starts on February 28th. We would love to have you with us. If you're interested in more information, go to inflectionpointhub.com or DM Jeff or DM me. Either one of us can talk to you about that. And Gary just put one more really awesome comment in here that is absolutely true. It's true that most people don't want to talk about the quote, ouchy stuff, but that's where the gold is. And ouchy stuff can have so many meanings. But regardless of which ouchy stuff you're trying to avoid looking at, that's the place where the barriers are. And when you get over the ouchy, you can get to the gold that's beyond it.
Yeah.
The Inflection Point Hub is going to be a community where ouchy can be safely put on the table. So here we are.
Yeah.
Gary, thank you so much for being with us today. Man, you have just really motivated us to keep going and going deeper. So I really appreciate you being with us. Jeff, it's been fun as always.
Yes. We'll see you same time, same station next week at 12:15.
Absolutely. Take care. Have a good week, everybody.